It's important to realize, like the title of a virtually new bestseller, there are no accidents. But the realm of reality of life after life, that's the part of the Torah called Kabbalah. The divine wisdom, we call it in English Jewish mysticism. Death and life after death and souls and reincarnation and transmigration, and that entire genre is in the jurisdiction of what's called Torah Hanistar, the hidden Torah. Something that's seemingly so negative and seemingly so final can only be responded to with an offensive forward movement of positivity.
The hour is getting late, so I'll be brief. We'll conclude this evening with Cantor Rabbi Baruch Sofrin, who will do the Kel Malei Rachamim with us in a few moments. Yes, it would be great if my father was here to see this great crowd. I thank you all for coming. I could stand here and speak for 30 days straight without pause and without interruption and share with you the experiences I had with my father. We've advertised we are working on a book and a website of a lot of his stories, a lot about his life. I have thousands of emails between my father and I. He loved email. Maybe one day I'll do a book of my own, but now it's not about me. It's about sharing with you a little bit about my father. I can say unequivocally, we loved each other, and he loved every single one of you. Yes, I had more access to him, but he cared and he thought about everyone sitting here tonight. This is not just to make you feel good. This is a fact. This is the truth. He loved the heretic, he loved the believer. Nobody was under his radar. He loved his wife, my mother. He loved his 12 children. I don't know how he had the time for us all, but he did. It was a mutual affection. Me and my siblings were a rowdy bunch. When my father was admitted to ICU at UCLA a few weeks ago, we're all huddled around my father's bed. The chief doctor of UCLA comes in. It's late at night. He said, "Visiting hours are over. Only the children, please." We knew it was going to be a long haul. When I started working for the Chai Center in 2003, my father gave me all the advice I needed. He said, "Mendel, don't speak American or Israeli politics and you'll be okay." His entire wholesome mission was to find Jews and make them more Jewish. And that mission continues. He always told me, "Mendel, I'm going to retire one day. I'm going to move to Israel. You'll take over the Chai Center, and I'll live off my pension fund." There was only one problem. There was no pension fund. So I got to work, spoke to a few people. I came back excitedly, told my father, "We started a $100,000 pension fund, and we're going to grow it." He said, "Fantastic." He said, "With one condition. Whenever the Chai Center does an event, you first have to take the money from the pension fund." How can I stand by watching money when it could be used for the Jewish community? That's the way it went with my father. For some reason, even as a kid, I was always concerned with my father's financial well-being, my mother's financial well-being. They were renting their home many, many years. I was 15 years old at the time. I said, "Father, why are you still renting? Purchase a home, you'll be done with this in 30 years. He said, 30 years? I'm going to get involved in a 30-year program when Mashiach is coming to me. He told me disbelief 30 years. When I started going as one of my jobs to be director of development to fundraise money for the Chai Center, I was going around different offices and I realized I'll have more success if I bring my father with. Who can say no if my father's sitting right there? I said, I promise you don't have to say anything. You'll come, I'll do my shtick, I'll do the spiel. Say nothing. I did my numbers, my PowerPoint presentations, the perspective donor then turns to Schwartzie, and he says, what do you have to say? And he said, business is booming. I immediately stopped this practice of bringing my father with, and I started going solo from there on. My father had no idea if there was $5,000 in the Chai Center account, if there was $50,000. It really made no difference. That's just the way he was. You all know my father was, besides being very colorful, he was out of the box. He couldn't be tied down to any denomination. The truth is, this started when he was 11 years old in Atlantic City, New Jersey, when he was going to public school. He was going to an after-school Hebrew program 3 times a week. His classmates told this to me this week. But at the age of 11, he wanted to go to a yeshiva. There was no yeshiva at that time in Atlantic City. So in order to enroll into a yeshiva out of town, he went to an advanced program with a private tutor just to get him up to par so he could enroll in this yeshiva, which he finally did the following year at age 12. He went to Talmudic Academy called TA of Baltimore, Maryland. And after a few years, he started to dabble a little bit with the Lubavitch movement. He finally graduated, went to Yeshiva University, and after 5 weeks realized his mistakes, so he dropped out. And then he went full-time to Crown Heights to be by the Lubavitcher Rabbi. It was those years that shaped my father's thinking, his behavior, and ultimately led him to his life's path, to his career, for almost 48 years as a rabbi here in Los Angeles, from February 1970 to February of 2017. But still, my father, very independent, said, I want to bust out a little bit more, and so in 1988 started the Chai Center. It was 1990, he had a job offer to be a full-time rabbi at a temple here in Los Angeles, a very nice temple, and he turned it down. Now you have to remember, he had 12 children, finances were scarce, not much of a job. I said, Father, why did you turn the job down? He said, I'm going to work full-time for a board that gets voted in every few years. I'm going to work for one temple, one institution, just for one building. There are 600,000 Jews in LA, Mendel, that need me. And he turned it down. Even in the Chai Center itself, he couldn't be tied down. I tried, but I couldn't. Not at all the time. I said, Todd, you know, we have some donors are giving $3,600, some of them giving $5,000 a year. We have to service them. Some of them were grumbling, we don't see Schwartzie often enough. So I started this initiative of having one-on-one lunches with these donors and my father. I said, I will fill up your calendar. Every morning I will let you know which restaurant you're going to, which donor you're going to see, and that'll be it. He said, great. After a few days, I began to hear that my father is standing up all these donors and he's not showing up for these lunches. I said, Ta, what's going on? He said, well, Mendel, I met Dennis in the parking lot at Gelson's and he needed my time. He was having some marital issues, so we got carried away. And that's the way it went. He chose to give his time to a Jew that really needed him. It may have made my life a bit more difficult as a director of development, but I am proud Not just that word for a legend, for a celebrity, but for a man of truth. In the end, my father requested to be buried in Schwartz, in the holy city of Israel. He could have been buried in Atlantic City near his parents. He could have been buried here in Los Angeles with a funeral of over 5,000 people. He could have been buried in Brooklyn. But yet again, my father chose his own path. He wanted to be buried with the greatest Kabbalists that ever existed. He told me many times in the last few years, Mendel, halt auf den Klanke. It's a Yiddishism for do not disconnect. Hold on to the truth. He said, don't let your Hollywood Meshuggah friends take you off the path. Stay the course. Tonight, no doubt, was the hardest night I had to put together for the Chai Center. Not only because we're memorializing my father, but for the first time, I don't have him to seek advice, get counsel. Who should be the first speaker? Who should be the second? Is the video tonight too long, too short? Is the venue okay? Everything I ran by my father, every single detail. Tonight's the first time he didn't look over my speech. Am I making him proud? Am I giving him Yiddish nachas? This is the way I think. It was 1983, on a Shabbat afternoon, between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, the Lubavitcher Rebbe said the following. The mitzvah of Ahavta l'recha kamecha, to love thy fellow as yourself, and the mitzvah of Achdus Yisrael, of Jewish unity, applies to a person even after their passing. What I so very much enjoyed about this talk is the two mitzvahs the Lubavitcher Rebbe pointed out are the two mitzvahs my father most loved. Love thy fellow as thyself and Jewish unity. And says the Rebbe further, this mitzvah applies to the soul even more so after the person's passing. Because the soul is no longer limited in this physical body. The soul has no geographical limitations. So all of us have the right to connect with their loved ones after they passed. It's incumbent upon us, myself included, to connect with my father even more so than before, through the acts and through the things that he most loved, namely the 613 commandments, but he most loved the 10 suggestions, which we printed out and you have on your chair. My friends, talk is cheap, and I want to see by a show of hands who is here tonight prepared to do one of these 10 commandments, these 10 suggestions, either on yourself, and if you already are doing all 10 and you have no room for growth and love thy fellow as thyself, then maybe you can help another person. Let me see a show of hands. Who's prepared for the elevation of Shlomo Yitzchak ben Moshe, ready to do one of the 10? Thank you. You also have on your card, and if you do not have it, you can take it home. There's one by the reception table on your way out. There's a Passover card. In just a few weeks, a month to be exact, is our public Chai Center Passover Seders. Everyone knows when's you not going to a Seder. Please send them to us. My father always loved to say, it's not about where you're holding, but in which way you're going. He always loved to quote the Baal Shem Tov, that said there are 613 rungs on a ladder representing the 613 commandments. Do not look if a person's on the second rung and another person's on the 612th rung, but rather in which way they're going. You know, I'm here from Los Angeles. I'm married with 6 children. All my friends in the Chai Center, Mendel, 6 kids already, slow it down. When I speak to my friends in Brooklyn, 6 kids. Mendel, you're sleeping at the wheel. So the main thing is we shall be going in the right direction. I want to finish with thanking just a few people. My father's assistant, Rifki Blau, of many years. I want to thank, besides the many donors that we have sitting here tonight, in particular, he does not allow me to say his name, so I will not. But he's a person that covered all my father's travel expenses whenever my father wanted to go to a family simcha. My parents have 50 grandchildren. And my father was always reluctant to withdraw money for his own personal ticket. You know, a bris, a last-minute ticket to Israel can cost a few dollars. So when this person came up to me and said, Mendel, I don't want your father to lose a family simcha. I told this to my father. He always spoke about this person. So I want to thank you very much. I want to thank the Chevra Kadisha of Los Angeles for doing an extraordinary job in getting my father on a flight to Israel and doing their holy work for my father. You know, we take it for granted, but in the last year alone, I wasn't able to officiate a funeral for 3 people who were coming to Chai Center events because one of their parents were cremated and not buried. And we realized, and my father and my mother started to tell me and tell themselves, we have to start pushing this a little bit, even though it's not in the top 10, but it's something that we need to consider a little bit. We just take for granted. We have to tell our friends, if any one of you sitting in the crowd is overseeing some of the trusts for your parents, and it's not according to Jewish law, please do contact me. I want to thank the Chevra Kadisha of Israel and my brother-in-law, Yossi Swordla, for handling the logistics on the ground. I want to thank Rabbi Levitansky from Simcha Monica for being by my family's side, especially during the last days. I want to thank my mother, as mentioned many times, for giving my father the life that he had, and especially the last few years for being by his side. Now the truth is, just to schmaltz it up a little bit, but it is true, the entire community owes my mother a debt of gratitude. I can say unequivocally, without Olivia Schwartz, there would be no Schwartzie. So thank you. Lastly, I want to thank my wife Esther and my children for living with an absentee husband and father these past many months. I know I have not been around much, being in and out of the hospital, being by my father's side during the day, many times into the night. So thank you, Esther, for giving me that time, and I will forever be grateful. Thank you. I would like to ask, before we do the Kelma L'Rachamim, which my sister Ora and Dob will read in English, I'd like to call upon my mother to share with us a few words.